Okay, just for the record, because we're setting this straight before we go anywhere else, I am perfectly happy that I have 11 credit cards, and so I don't need to defend that in any way, shape, or form. Now, Tim.
Do you feel good about that now?
I feel
She's got a
great
little therapy there.
about that.
She also does a lot of mall therapy too. Goes out there and hits the mall and feels good.
I do. I love shopping. You are talking to someone who thoroughly enjoys shopping, but I'm thankful because I'm not someone who gets into debt over my shopping. But Tim, I know a lot of people, in fact, my closest friends, he was out of work for 8 months. And so they had to put everything on credit cards, and they're just now trying to, you know, they were buried and they're trying to come out of it. Give our viewers out there 2 or 3 things. What's the first steps they can take to get out of debt?
Well, it's very simple. First thing you have to do is stop the bleeding. That means you got to take a look at how much you can really afford to spend every month, and you've got to spend within those means. You can't spend more than you're actually bringing in.
Do you cut the credit cards at some point?
Well, you know what? I prefer to freeze them in the you know, you may not want to cut them up. So if you have too many, sure, get rid of most of them and keep 2 or 3. Maybe 1 for business purposes if you happen to have a business separate from your personal. But you want to make sure you don't have too many credit cards, and you want to make sure that you're not spending more than you can afford to every month. That's the first thing. Then you work out a systematic payment plan where you're going to pay a little bit every month towards this debt. If you need to, you call up your creditors. You say, look, I know I've got a lot of money owing to you.
Right.
Let's work out a payment plan where I'm going to pay you a little bit every month, and this is what it's going to look like.
Have you ever had to do that?
No, well, we've helped people get out of that, out of that situation. Yeah. So and you'd be amazed at how often creditors will say, you know what, I'm glad you called me.
Yes.
I'm glad that we worked out a payment plan.
My husband was in an accident and had to be air vacked. The helicopter bill was like $7,000, and our insurance did not cover that. And so I had to call the hospital and just said, we'll pay it, but we can only do X a month. And they said, no problem.
They're happy to know that they're going to be collecting money rather than having to write it off and say, we're never going to get this again. So work out an arrangement with them and try to stick to it the best you can. And then just be careful going forward how much you're spending. I think that's usually the best way to deal with a debt problem.
Oh, well, I tell you what, we're approaching tax time. Okay, I hate taxes.
Why?
I've never in my, okay, I'm gonna admit it. I've never in my life filled out a tax form, ever. I would be overwhelmed, wouldn't even know where to start.
Oh, my. I filled it out for the first 17, 18 years of my life once I had to start filling tax.
Okay, good
And now
job.
the last 17 years or so, it's been someone else. But tax is a good time because you get refunds. You can figure out ways to get money back. I like money back. It's like a windfall every spring.
Now, I have to tell you though, Dave, I have to say this people love the windfall that comes with the refund at tax time, but it's actually not a good thing when you get too much of a refund. Because what it means is you've effectively lent money to the government throughout the year. Now they're giving it back to you.
Aha! So they've been making money off your money, Dave.
So what you want to do is you want to plan your affairs that you're somehow sending them less throughout the year, because you can work that out with the government.
Okay, we all want to send less. Nobody's into tipping the government. So how can we do less with our taxes?
Well, there's some pillars, what I call pillars of tax planning. The first one is deducting. So when you're filing your tax return, you want to make sure you're claiming every possible deduction you're entitled to.
That's right.
If you're not sure what those are, speak to a tax professional, get some help.
Is there deductions.com?
So
that we can just go straight.
Not exactly, but you know where it starts? It starts with your tax forms.
Yes.
Look at the tax forms and take a look at what deductions are available. You say, am I entitled to this? Am I entitled to that?
Okay.
If you're saying no to every single line on the return, then you're not doing your tax planning very well.
Right.
You should be looking at ways of changing your fares a little bit to entitle yourself.
Yeah, and it'd be very important. Someplace in the early years of your finances, maybe once get a financial planner to help you with your, because you see the deductions that they help you with.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you go, oh, I didn't know that, or how to
Well,
get that.
and your oldest daughter and her husband, one of the things I was so impressed about, first couple of years of marriage, and they already met and had a financial plan going. I was blown away.
And you know, what you can do is, as you said, Dave, sit down with a financial planner, maybe even have them do your tax return for the first year. If you want to do it from then on, you can, but you've got at least a template to follow. Your return shouldn't really change radically from year to year in most cases.
It doesn't, okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's an idea. Make sure and so that's the first pillar.
So
Make sure you're
deductions.
deducting. Next pillar of tax planning is deferring. That's taking a tax bill that you would otherwise have to pay today and pushing it off to a future year. Because the further you can push it off, well, you get use of that money today until you have to actually make your payment.
So how do we defer?
Well, you can contribute to registered plans, so registered retirement savings plans or IRAs in the U.S. So it just depends on what kind of plans are available to you, but these plans where you can claim a deduction and pull the money out later, pay tax, that's a great way to defer tax.
Yeah, you defer it because you put it there and later you're not making as much. When you take it out, they can't take as much money from you.
That's exactly right. And there are other ways to defer tax, simply by, if you have investments, for example, not selling anything in the last quarter or maybe even the last half of a year. If you sell something at a profit in the last quarter of a year, you're going to pay tax in that year. Well, what you might want to do is consider waiting until the following calendar year, then sell the investment at a profit.
And then sell it.
That pushes the tax off by a
You know,
year.
you're just mentioning investment. Let me ask a quick question. Is it smarter to save or invest?
Well, there is a difference between saving and investing. Saving,
Right.
in my mind, is parking it in a bank account and earning interest income, whereas investing is a longer-term focus, and you have to invest if you're going to save for retirement. If you're going, you need to set aside money for the future,
Right.
and that takes a proper investment plan.
Right.
Savings are really short-term.
Short-term.
Okay. But you got 2 Ds. What's the third D?
Third one is dividing. Dividing income. That is making sure that you're not the only one in the family who's paying all the tax.
Right.
Everyone in the family should be earning some income, and there are ways of actually shifting
Okay,
income.
everyone meaning the kids as well?
Possibly, possibly. For example, I'll give you my own story. I write some books, as you might know, and I earn some royalty income from that. Well, I hire my wife to help me market those books and distribute those books. I hire my kids to do a few things around the office. I pay them each a salary. I can claim a deduction for those amounts I'm paying to my family right against my business income. They report the amounts. So, and my kids aren't going to pay any tax on those amounts.
Right.
They haven't got enough
because
income.
they're not enough to warrant that, oh, I'm going to look into that.
So self-employment is actually one of the greatest last tax shelters because it allows you to, and I'm not saying full-time self-employment, don't give up your day job, but you can actually create self-employment part-time to allow you to pay amounts to your family members.
Wow.
That's good. Now, it's almost like Mark could hire you to do books for him.
Well, I am actually co-owner, but we've never had the kids. So I'm already thinking, I'm going home and I'm asking our accountant if that would be good for us to do.
And depending on the age of the kids, they can do more or less. And if you have a 3-year-old, it's going to be hard to justify paying them anything. But certainly, you know, once they hit 9, 10, 11, they can start doing some things.
Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, here's the deal. Buy Tim's book. I mean it. It'll help you. It's current. It's this year. It's going to make a difference. And if bling is your thing, or maybe you're just bad with money, stay with us for the bottom line. It'll be awesome.